And here we go. We're live on this Monday night. Joe Rao and Joe Cioffi on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. On what turned out to be actually a very nice day here, although on the cold side. I went out for a walk today, Joe. I did an hour. I did my 4 miles. I did my 10,000 steps. Did you do your 10,000 steps today?
I I think I told you that I have a very long driveway, and I've estimated that if I go up and down the driveway 20 times, that's 2 3/4 miles.
Right.
And I didn't do 20 today. I did 12, and I had other things to do in here. So I got in. Let's see, according to my Fitbit, how many steps did I do today? 5,000. So far, I got 5,554 steps.
Yeah, I know. I broke 10,000 today somewhere. It's on my phone. I have the app on my phone takes care does all the counting and everything like that. So just a couple of things. I'll save any ranting for after we do weather. But just want to mention because we've got with everything going on with the coronavirus, and of course now all this sheltering in place, and various all the shutdowns, movie theaters, and so on, impact. One of the impacts is for people who have elective surgery, and Scott Briller, the chairman's mom, is supposed to have her knee surgeries, both knees, or knees surgery or knee surgeries, in April, but now they've kind of pushed it back to July. Or because of everything that's going on, which is understandable. But don't worry, if we have to, we'll take you to Home Depot. We'll do the surgery ourselves. Joe and I will do each one knee apiece. It's easy stuff. We do it in a heartbeat.
We might be the only show in town, considering the fact that the late night shows, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, they're now out for the duration without any audiences.
Right.
And we never had an audience. An audio audience to begin with. I see on the chat board a lot of things going on, and a lot of people posting. But yeah, we might be the only source, one of the few sources of entertainment, or few places where people rely on us. And
yes.
Hard,
Yeah, I was thinking. This would. I know this may sound a bit strange, but it really isn't. At least in terms of passing the time, it actually would have been nice if we had some kind of snowstorm going on right now, like we did 2 years ago around this time, because that would have at least, if you're being kept in your house, if you're staying in your house, if there's a snowstorm, it's kind of understandable. So at least you'd have that to sort of distract you. And it also would be something to keep us, the two of us, busier than we otherwise would be. But the weather remains relatively uneventful. And by the way, I don't know if you have do you have a Stop and Shop near you?
No, we don't.
Not Pshaw. Because now this is where being over 60 gives us a big advantage. All right, because Stop and Shop, a lot of the supermarkets are adjusting their hours. They're shortening their hours so that they can restock the stores at night, which makes total sense. But Stop and Shop, starting on Thursday, if you are over 60, they will open their store opens at 6 a.m. From 6 a.m. to 7:30. You have to be 60 and over to shop.
Lovely.
Okay? Yes. Now here's the thing. Here's what I'm banking on.
It's kind of weird. Now they're going to ask you how you had they card you.
Well, which is perfectly fine. No, but here's the thing that I'm banking on. Okay, is that now you're asking 60-year-olds and up to wake up to get to Stop and Shop at 6 a.m. So you figure at the very least they have to get up by 5. And some of them who are slow to get going will have to get up at 4:30. All right, this is not going to be any. I'm thinking that I'm thinking that at least at the 6 o'clock hour there may not be that many people. So I plan to be there in full force just to get my shopping done. No, I'm not hoarding toilet paper. Actually, hang on one second. I'll be right back.
Okay, while he's away, What more can I say? My wife went to. We live up here in Putnam Valley, but the Acme is right across the border in
Here we
northern.
go. So I've got three of these. All right.
Okay, so you're all
But
set, Joe.
but hold on a second. Let me put this down. None of this was bought anytime recently. Okay. It's just that
Right,
you just sort of have a habit of whenever we go to Costco, we
right,
always would pick up a thing of toilet paper.
right.
And sometimes we'd have a bigger, stockpile, and sometimes the stockpile is dwindling. So this kind of timed out pretty well, where we've got three of these. So I don't know how many rolls in each. 36 times three. So I got 108 rolls of toilet paper and 1,000 sheets. That's 10,800 sheets of toilet paper. I could eat brand cereal every day for 2 months and I still won't run out. So anyway,
How
yeah,
many how many times do you per visit? What do you use? 3 or 4 square? Is that your calculation, or
well,
just grab the whole thing and
it it
just
really
think about it,
it
Joe?
really kind of depends on what I ate the day before.
You got to think about this though. For all the years that we've been on this earth and watching commercials, going back to the days of Mr. Whipple in Charmin,
Yes.
who got replaced by a bunch of blue bears or what. But really, you've never seen in a toilet paper commercial a demonstration of exactly what the paper is used for. That would be interesting.
I know some of I had a couple of rolls from gag gifts that had like messages written on them, but I don't
Right.
know. I don't even know what happened to those things. But no matter, you'd have to try to find something comical at least to laugh at through all of this. I know it's a very serious thing, but it's good to keep a sense of humor about you. Otherwise, uh, it starts to get a little bit difficult to handle. And this is going to be, we've got a long haul here over the next several weeks to get through whatever it is we're going to be getting through
You kind of
with
hope that
this.
perhaps you kind of hope that perhaps the talk about this may run through July and even on into August, but you're hoping that perhaps something is going to happen, some breakthrough is going to occur, and that, hey, we thought we'd have to go all the way till blah blah blah, but it looks like the end is actually a lot closer and a lot nearer, and we're going to start opening things up again. Maybe not necessarily in another couple of weeks, but um, you hope that that's going to be the story, that
Oh well, no, that's
they
no
change.
that that's been gamed into the system over recent years where you get. I'm trying to think of something specific, but where they give you a date and time for an estimated completion of certain work,
Right.
and the date is always like far off into the future, so that inevitably you do wind up getting it long before the date that they gave you, so that you walk away thinking, oh well, this is great, they did great service, and they may very well have done great service. So I think the low expectation game is being played to an extent where you say, okay, we'll go July and August. We'll be really really conservative, so that just like you said, if it comes in, where it looks like we're coming over the top to flatten the curve, which is really what they're doing here. By the way, um, those of you watching at home, Google the Washington Post. A few people posting like the specific numbers on day to day, and why are we getting all worked up over these numbers? They're low, and we're stopping the economy and all that. Uh, Washington Post had an interesting piece about the mathematics of exponential math, when numbers are growing exponentially, and just how quickly you can go from 1 to 1 million if something is basically doubling every day. So if take a look at that. I think it was in yesterday's Washington Post or 2 days ago. It's a short piece, but at least it explains what happens. And they kind of illustrated about like a lily a pond with a lily pad on it, one lily pad, and let's say the lily pad um, reproduces itself one every day, and the pond is, is a certain size, how long would it take to fill the entire pond? And the answer, in this particular illustration, it was 47 days. So but the question was, how long would it take it to be filled halfway? And I think the answer was um, uh, 40 days. And in fact, they pointed out that because of the exponential growth, the pond would actually look very empty until the very end when the numbers start getting bigger and bigger. I don't know if those are the exact numbers I just gave you, but the point is that exponential growth is what is the problem here. That if you let this thing run out of control, that all of a sudden you will have 100 million people with the virus, and some of those people would not survive. So it is just it's a difficult situation. But what are you supposed to do? Just let it go and do nothing?
Right.
You know, uh, like we said yesterday. I mean, you have your mom, my mom in their 80s. I've got relatives in Italy right now in Milan who are well into their 80s and low 90s that are they're right in the thick of it with the death rates as high as they are in Italy. So let's just one day at a time, everybody. We'll get through all this.
We were watching just a little while ago while we were having dinner, my wife and I, on the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell. They have a correspondent in Italy, Seth Dones, who has come down with the coronavirus. And,
Really?
and he did a report about what he's been going through since he's been diagnosed with coronavirus. As he pointed out, a reporter never wants to get into the mix of the story, but he says it looks like I am part of this story here in Italy. So not a good thing to be in a different country and being stuck with a virus that could potentially be deadly. But I think Seth Jones looked like he was in his 40s, so he's not you know as critical as, let's say, somebody like you or I who are a bit older.
Right. And we as I've said, we've certainly reached the second plateau.
Yes, yes.
Possibly you could define it as a third plateau. I just saw Charlie Baker on the board pointing out that he actually worked for Scott Paper at one point, and talked about. I can't find it on the chat, but he kind of described the machine that made the tissue paper and how many sheets that it could produce. Everybody's hoarding that stuff, so that's making. Oh, that was another thing. Yes, did I mention this yesterday? So, on Amazon, I put. I went on Amazon and I just for laughs. I went on looking for toilet paper. Not that I was going to buy it, but I just put on toilet paper, and it's it was all out, and then it said if you wanted to get it emailed when we would get it back in stock, and we would notify you. Well, I did get notified that Quilted Northern was back in stock. Okay,
Okay.
except that the problem is that ordering it today. Okay, the estimated date of arrival it was April 24th. So I'm thinking, you know what? You know,
I don't think I could hold on
yeah,
that
I was
long.
gonna say I'm a pretty strong guy, and when I make up my mind to do something, I do it. But yeah, kind holding it in for 5 weeks is a little bit beyond my pay grade. So anyway, let's get some weather done here. And we've you and I have been complaining about the fact, at least from the standpoint, you got to understand, folks, it isn't because we're rooting for things to happen. It's just that when the weather is quiet, um, it's kind of slow for us, and it uh, hang on, Joe. I got you on the full screen. I got to bring up the other. Oh, look, you're doubled here. Yay! Here you go. You're a double. Let me just got to switch the
When
screen here.
cousins are two of a kind.
Yes.
Should I put on a British accent here?
Oh, to play Kathy?
Yeah.
No, you don't want to do that. Um, so anyway, not that we're rooting for storms to happen. We really don't. It's just that I guess the fact that it just makes things easier for us when we have things to talk about. And the weather across the country, and maybe this is a positive too, Joe, that things are very, very quiet weather-wise, rather than having to put severe weather or some late winter, early spring snowstorms in the mix on top of everything that is going on. But except for up in the Sierra Nevadas in California, up into South Central Oregon, and along the Nevada border, where we have various winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings up, and we also have winter storm watches up for southeastern Wyoming and northwestern Nebraska and southern South Dakota. The weather is fairly quiet across the U.S.
Incidentally, have you seen these theories or hypotheses regarding the coronavirus where they say that the optimum temperature for the virus to spread is about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you draw an isotherm, using that as the base, you will find that it runs across the northern tier of the United States, out across the ocean, into Europe, and right over Italy. And supposedly, as we get into the warmer months and as that isotherm line moves further to the north and as the temperatures warm up, the virus will not spread as readily. That this supposedly this 48-degree temperature is the absolute optimum temperature for a spread of the virus, which is why I guess the CDC and all these physicians are so concerned that the temperature is just right now in many of the major population centers of the United States.
Well, our mean temperature here hasn't gone above 48 yet.
Hmm.
The average high is above 48, but the average low is still way down, is below freezing. Yeah, so our
Right.
mean temperature is still not quite to the upper 40s. We're not going to get to that till sometime in what, early April,
Yeah.
roughly. So another 3 weeks before we get there. Satellite wise, a lot of clouds. We had a pretty decent day here in the Northeast. Clouds have rolled into the northern mid Atlantic states. A lot of clouds back through the Great Lakes. As overcast as this looks, when you look at the satellite loop, there's not a whole lot of rain going on out of this. And also, look at on the lower, I don't know if you guys, it's on the screen. Let me just adjust it a little bit. But on the far left, on the off the coast of California, there's this big upper low. And this is driving a lot of moisture into California, particularly where you see those winter storm warnings up in the Sierra Nevadas. That's where all of that is coming from. And there is cold air in the west. There's also cold air that is spreading out across southern Canada, but weather systems aren't moving along. And with respect to the radar tonight, you see how loaded it is in California. Some very heavy rains down from Los Angeles, and then on northwestward inland to near Carson City in Nevada, and points north of there. And of course, we've got some. Well, I want to make sure I say it right. And we've got some showers in the Tennessee Valley. Not a whole lot of rain, Joe. I thought maybe we would just get, at least for our area, say from Northeast Virginia to Southern New England, a few showers late tonight into tomorrow morning, and then right after the morning commute is done, most of this is going to be long gone. I think.
Yeah. Well, I for the Hudson Valley, I said midday, maybe a couple of drops lingering into early afternoon. It comes in before daybreak. And by the way, in the lower Hudson Valley, north of the 84 corridor, there may very well be some wet snow mixing in. No accumulations, let's stress that, but a little bit of wet snow possibly mixing in with the rain before daybreak tomorrow morning. And then, as you mentioned, through the course of the day tomorrow, first half of the day a little bit damp, maybe a bit foggy too. And then toward the end of the day, things will begin to dry out. We'll get some pokes of sunshine that should lead us into a clear night tomorrow night and a fairly nice bright day on Wednesday.
Yep. Storm Prediction Center has a minimal amount of thunderstorm and severe weather risk. It's really confined to a small area in southern Texas, in and around Del Rio, in Texas, and that's into tomorrow morning. For tomorrow, we have a slightly larger area of risk in the same general area in Texas, but it expands northward into southern Oklahoma on day 3, which is this is the period now for this is Wednesday into Thursday. The risk is even larger. Now we've got marginal risk pushing up into Kansas and into westernmost Missouri. And let me just check the 4 to 8 day outlook. Probability too low on day 4. On days 6 and 7 and 8, it's the potential that's too low. Predictability too low on the first 2 days, and probability too low, potential too low on the last 3.
Right, right. You
So that
said you got stuck briefly, Joe.
Oh, okay. So predictability too low on day 4 and 5, and potential too low on days 6, 7, and 8. So the next 3 days, not so much tonight, but tomorrow and Wednesday, some severe weather running around. But nothing that we have to worry about in our neck of the woods. Still no decisive. I looked at everything pretty closely today, and I still don't see anything of consequence. And we're so late in the season now. Tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day, Friday St. Joseph's Day, and the first day of spring. At this point, if you're looking for some sort of late season, late March, early April type event, it's going to have to be beyond perfect as far as the atmosphere is concerned. And I really don't see anything in the upper air that's pointing to that.
No, I'm pretty much getting ready to just close the door on any kind of possible wintry weather event for the end of the year, for the end of the season. I see no signs of anything like that happening, at least in the next week or so, and even beyond. And tomorrow's going to be kind of strange for St. Patrick's Day. No St. Patrick's Day parade. Um, such a major event, especially in Midtown Manhattan. They have like over 2 million people who line the streets to watch the parade. It's a long parade too. It runs from
Yeah,
about the morning to 4 in the afternoon, and they run up Fifth Avenue. They don't run down Fifth Avenue.
right.
The St. Patrick's Day parade, but there's no parade tomorrow, so it's a moot point.
It is.
We're down.
All right, so we've got after tomorrow, and of course Wednesday, as you said, looks like a good day, and I have no problem. I agree with you with that. But then it looks like we have one of these warm front-ish situations setting up for Thursday, and there'll be some rain with it, and there might even be some snow in upstate New York and northeastern New York and up into New England as the warm front goes by or tries to go by. Joe, it looks like there's a lead area of rain. The real warm front to me doesn't get through here until sometime later Thursday night. And I
Right.
think that sets us up for Friday for the possibility that there could be a stray scattered shower or I don't even I thought maybe earlier that the front might generate a thunderstorm. Now I'm wondering whether the front just comes through with maybe a passing shower. But more importantly to me is the fact that on Friday, if we wind up getting enough sun with a west wind, and it'll be a pretty decent breeze with that west wind, it might be, gusty at times. I think we could see temperatures up into the 70s, and the weather service, on the weather service's forecast high temperature map for Friday, they actually have temperatures reaching middle and upper 70s across central and southern New Jersey, and low 70s up to New York City, and low 70s up by you, and near 80 in Baltimore and Washington. I think that's entirely realistic.
I think so too. In fact, Friday, the record high temperature at Westchester County Airport in White Plains, 73 degrees, and that was set back in 2010. So that's 10 years ago. That record may very well be in jeopardy. I'm thinking that temperatures in the Hudson Valley, on average, on Friday will be around 73. So maybe a 70 to 75 or 71 to 76. And yeah, if we get more sunshine than what we're thinking right now, Joe, don't be surprised. We could very well see temperatures soar well into the 70s, even close to 80 in some inland spots. And you talk about a wind. I think Saturday, behind that cold front, Saturday we're going to see a whipping wind here, maybe 20 or even 30 miles an hour sustained, and maybe some gusts over 40. So that'll kick up things as we kick into the upcoming first weekend of spring. Doesn't that sound lovely?
Totally agree. And I'm just, running through the upper air on the new GFS, which is, now that we're on daylight saving time, even for daylight saving time, this is running late. It should have been all done by now, but some of these maps are missing in the in between time frames. It looks like there's some kind of an upper high that's building up in Europe that wants to push west toward Greenland, but it never really quite gets there. And while there is some signs of subtle change in the longer range as we get to the end of the month or the beginning of April, you still at the end of the day wind up with a very deep trough in the western part of the United States, a trough along or just off the east coast with a ridge from the eastern Gulf of Mexico northward into the Great Lakes. So, I mean, this basically to me just says that, a continuation of, these shots of cold air that are coming down out of Canada will continue to do so, and they come in for a day or two and then they move out, and then you get a warm front cold front combination that winds up producing some rain, and that really is it. And I just I continue to just be on this as we talked about at the beginning. There really isn't much as far as any changes are concerned with regards to going into the end of the month and the beginning of April.
And it looks like right now, Joe, that the weekend, the upcoming first weekend of spring, not too bad. Partly sunny. I'm saying partly sunny and windy for Saturday. Temperatures will be around 50. That's slightly below normal for the Hudson Valley at this time of the year. And then Sunday, mostly sunny, but not quite as windy. And temperatures will be unseasonably chilly, maybe only in the mid and low 40s. And what did my grandmother used to say, and I'm sure yours too, these drastic changes from warm to cold. We're going to see temperatures up in the 70s on Friday, and we'll finish out the weekend on Sunday, probably down in the 40s, and nighttime temperatures come Saturday and Sunday night, probably somewhere as we were last night in the 20s. So up and
Up
down,
and down.
an oscillation.
Salashend. My grandmother used to say salashend, salashend. Up and down, up and down.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's pretty much kind of wraps it up. Um, from a weather standpoint, just a couple of things. Going back to the whole coronavirus situation, because I've been checking on Facebook. Just a word to the wise. Please read very carefully whatever other people are posting, and make sure whatever they post that they source it. Okay, if they're just somebody's just blindly putting up stuff, ask them what their source is. Provide a link. Okay, I've seen so much stuff that was just, I don't want to lying. Lie is not the right word, but it was just completely erroneous. I mean, talk about fake news. Um, if you can't put a link to it to a reputable website, okay, then be very cautious about what you see up there. And the other thing is, and this is, I find this truly sad, but I've seen, for example, one of the upsides to all of this, Joe, and I get it here when I check the comments on YouTube for those that watch on the replay. Not We don't see it on the chat board, but I used to joke about the weather control people and the geoengineering people and all the rest of it. Well, they've gone kind of silent now because all of the attention that's focused on the coronavirus. So I actually saw somebody post a picture of what was a railroad car. You know, one of those railroad cars that carries gas or oil or gas,
Hmm.
and it was photoshopped. And what they did was they put on this picture COVID-19, so that it made you think that the person was actually implying that this was being shipped to a place where they were going to put it in planes and spray it all over for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, really, stop. Okay, that to me, I mean, that was just beyond, way over it. And you know what? And the thing is, I was reading some of the comments underneath that, and it's amazing how many people, actually believed it. So, which is, it's hard enough that we're dealing with all of this stuff that we've got to deal with, and you're trying to sort out all the information and trying to make sure you got the right information and so on. But when you see this sort of stuff thrown into the mix, it just creates unnecessary angst, and especially for older folks who might see that and say, what is this?
Right.
I don't know. So anyway, that I just a minor thing. I guess that's my advice to everybody. Just make sure that whatever you see or read, just make sure it's sourced by a from a reputable news organization, and not from so and so's brother-in-law who happens to work at this place or that place, who's friends with the chief who runs the machine that gets the oil, that puts the, no, I
Right.
don't want any of that. All right.
Right. I do have a question from a Briller Jeopardy question for you from Mr. Briller.
Oh, please do.
This is one that he posed. He sent to me a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks, a few days ago, and I never got a chance to use it either yesterday or at the end of last week. But
Oh, which reminds me, I got a link of that he sent me that I got to send you about
yes,
heat.
he did ask me about did I get the article on heat wave?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just this is one with the. Let's just say I had my hands full today. I was
Yeah, well,
making meatballs.
understandable, understandable. So here it is. This goes back to your days in New Orleans. Uh, he said, I asked Joe what was the lowest temperature ever, and we went through that. Now, today's question: what was New Orleans' highest temperature ever?
I don't know that it's ever gone. Has it gone over 100 there? I mean, I think I was. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna say 101.
Very close. 100, 102.
102.
August the 22nd. I think this is just before you arrived or landed there, 1980.
Yeah, I didn't get there till 83.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny down there in the summer because most days, on most days, 90, 91. That's as high as it gets.
right.
It's only in when you look at some of the bigger heat waves where it's gotten really hot there, it doesn't set up that way. And when it does, then you start pushing it to 95, 96, and that and it brings the dew points down a little bit, but it's very consistent in terms of the highs on most summer days. It's usually around 90, so it's unusual to get it to go much above 95 or
Way
6.
up, way up there.
Oh, and by the way, Scott also pointing out that Caribou, Maine's snow cover is at the highest it's been all winter at 32 inches right now.
Well, we said, Joe, the Interstate 95 corridor didn't get much in the way of snow, but you didn't have to go too far away to the north or to the west to see some significant, if not in some cases substantial snowfalls this winter in parts of the Northeast. So it's not like we had a snow drought everywhere in the Northeast.
Right.
It was just a matter of, along that I-95 corridor from Washington and Baltimore, especially Philadelphia, New York, and on up to Boston, that there was a paucity of significant snow. And you think about Boston, how little snow they had this season, and how many years ago was it that they had over 100 inches of
Well,
snow?
not that many years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you that link right now, so just stand by. By the way, I made I made 48 meatballs today.
Well, good. You can tell Mr. Tri-State Weather, that you're trying to do your
Adam
best.
Toxin. Uh, yes. Yeah. You know what it was?
Yes,
What it
sir.
is when it gets like this. Being that I would, you're sort of semi confined to the house. Uh, there was some meat in the freezer. There was some chopped meat in the freezer, and I happened to have also some frozen chopped pork. And I said, you know what? Let me make some meatballs, and because they last, and that's what I did, and had them for dinner, and all is good. So you got that heat link there.
Yes, I did. I saw it pop up, and I will look at it a little bit later.
All right, let me just also tell everybody who's on the chat board tonight or who is watching this show that the chat continues after the show is over on Discord, which is absolutely free. It's called Joe's Offline Chat. It was set by our Timothy Veltman, who is one of our regulars here. He set it up for me, and good idea, Timothy. The link is on there for those of you who haven't joined up there and you're into the chat, the conversation. Just grab onto that Discord link and join up, and you could share weather pictures. There's a couple of different categories in there, so it keeps the conversations neat. Some of it is weather only, some of it is for the other subject matters, but do by all means become a part of the conversation on Discord. And no, Bill Uber, my meatballs do not bounce. Okay, they do not bounce. All right, they are darn good, my meatballs.
Scott Briller says, here's a question. How many times this winter has New York City got above 32 degrees for has not gotten above 32 for
Right. Oh, that was another. That was a. I'm now Scott. I know Scott sent that to me, but I don't remember on which page. Scott sends me, which is fine. Uh, Facebook or Twitter or on Patreon. So I'm always forgetting. It's me. My memory is not what it used to be. So I'm always forgetting where to go to find the post. But I'm gonna check it up here on uh, on Facebook because I think he sent it to me here. It was how many days? Yeah, the number of days that New York City had not gotten above 32 this winter, and okay, so it wasn't on the, so it's not on there. I'll find it. It'll turn up. It wasn't that many, that's for sure.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we'll save that for tomorrow. Since I got the post, I already kind of know what the answer is. Um, oh, did he send you the question?
I was up on the chat board.
Oh, well,
That's why I mentioned
so
it.
he put it up on the chat. Okay, so Scott, I can't find the answer, but I think it was only what 5 or 6. It was very little. I remember reading it. It was 5 or 6, and normally it's like 15 where it doesn't get above freezing.
I'm just
So
looking. I'm
yeah,
looking.
I'm watching.
Yeah, posted it, but I don't see. I don't
Frank
see any response to
Frank
that.
Riccio wants my meatball recipe. You know, uh, I will gladly. Actually, I think if you look on my YouTube channel, I think there's a video somewhere in there that I did, a year or two ago, where I did the meatballs. But if not, I will. I'll do it one of these days when things are really slow. Maybe I'll cut a separate video when I get a chance. The next time I make meatballs, I'll cut, because one of the things when I'm doing it, Joe, is if I'm going to cut a video while I'm cooking, while I'm preparing, I need somebody to hold the camera. I can't hold the camera in one hand and do what I got to do with my eggs and my cheese and my
You got to get a
parsley and
tripod.
my my basil and the all the other stuff.
Get a tripod.
No, I need somebody to shoot it because then they got to move around with the
Right.
camera and go on top, and I'm
Yep.
not. I don't want to have to sit down and edit it and put it together, and no, I'm not doing that.
I should bring
Uh,
my wife. I should bring my wife down here tomorrow in honor of St. Patrick's Day and have her read out her soda bread recipe, or how she puts the soda bread together.
oh, nice. Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah, I
Are you? I'm not doing corned beef tomorrow, but I have done corned beef in recent years. When I make corned beef, I do it in the crock pot with Sam Adams beer. I cook it
oh
in Sam Adams beer. It's
that
amazing. The answer, by the way, is three: one in December, one in January, and one in February. The number of days in New York City did not get above 32. And thanks for hitting super chat, Scott. We really do appreciate it as always.
one
But
dollar $1 for
$1 for every day it didn't get above 32. That works. Um, yeah. Yeah, I do it in the crock pot with Sam Adams beer. It's amazing how good the corned beef comes when you cook it in beer.
I'm not sure whether, well, if you cook it in beer, I'm not sure how I would take to something like that. As I think I may have mentioned, Joe, in my entire life, I have never drank either a bottle or a glass of beer.
Oh
I
no,
think
no, don't
required.
listen. You don't. The alcohol evaporates, so it's really all about the flavors,
Okay,
and it gets into the corned beef, and it just makes it really, really tender. I mean, it just literally pulls apart with a fork. You just pull it. So you're not, the alcohol's gone. So yeah, and I'm by the way, uh, I'm with you on beer. I mean, if I have I have a very low alcohol tolerance. So if I have anything beyond one, I actually risk throwing up. So I've never been able to drink enough to get, technically drunk, even when I was young, when you did those sorts of things. But yeah, so if I have a beer once a year or twice a year, it's a lot.
yeah.
And most times I don't even finish it.
I
So
said, yeah, kind of weird. I remember, of course, taking my kids, let's say, to McDonald's, and they had a Happy Meal, and they had the big soda and everything else, and that. And now sometimes when I'm sitting with them, let's say at dinner or whatever like that, and I see like my son, for example, drinking beer, and here I am. I never touch this stuff. It's kind of weird to see something like that,
what about what about a glass of wine?
Wine, yeah, I'll have wine every once in a while,
You mean
but
like a good Merlot
yeah.
or a Cabernet Sauvignon?
Ah, there was one Matus Rosé.
Yeah, nah,
That's kind of a sweet wine, isn't it?
yeah, no, I prefer a Toulouse-Lautrec.
All right.
Well,
Well,
we have fun on this show.
see, now we ought to have like a marathon, like to keep people active, with things that are happening and everything shutting down and closing off or whatever. We ought to schedule a day where we're on 24/7.
I'm thinking no. I mean, look, I will be with you if we ever get to a situation where, you know, if we wind up, well, obviously it's not going to be a snowstorm, but if we wind up with, God forbid, if we have a hurricane over the summer and into the fall that requires us to be on, in the wee hours of the morning, I will be there with you. You said yourself it'd be kind of interesting to do a
As long
show.
as electricity holds out.
As long as the electricity holds out, I mean, if there's weather to talk about, I'll be there with you
Okay.
to do it, of course. But it's kind of hard, at least with the way things are this time of year, the way things are weather-wise, to do it now. So Timothy Veltman, by the way, um, grilled steaks. I had friends who were away for Sandy response tree work, and they grilled steaks and boiled potatoes in Guinness. I actually did, by the way, Timothy. You just reminded me. Uh, uh, I've also used Guinness. I've made corned beef in Guinness in a crock pot, and it also comes out very good. I prefer using Sam Adams, the lager, the heavier lager beer. For some reason, it just seems to taste even better. But Guinness is perfectly fine if you decide, Joe, to put it in the crock pot and cook it in Guinness. It will you won't be disappointed. It is very, very good.
I guess that's it. What else is there to talk about? Now we're talking about crock pots and beer and
Well,
corned beef. Oh,
listen, Thursday is St. Joseph's Day,
right.
so we got to make zeppoli. Um, which is I always that was something that happened in my house. My mom would make them, or my grandmother would make them. Not the ones you get in the bakery, but more like the ones that you used to get at the feasts. With
Right.
the fried dough. Basically, it's fried dough with powdered sugar. I
Okay.
actually preferred it with salt rather than sugar. But darn it, St. Joseph's Day and St. Patrick's Day, the two best days of the year, in my view.
Well, to me, at my house, growing up, St. Joseph's Day, my mom would always make me my St. Joseph's Day meal, which was spaghetti with marinara sauce and calamari in the
Nice.
you
I
know
had I had calamari last night.
Good.
I had it last night. I'm a tentacle guy.
Yes, I
I,
love
I I'm astounded I'm astounded that a lot of people don't like the tentacles. That's the best part.
That's the best part. Absolutely.
They're into whenever I go someplace, if there's calamari and if I order it, that's the first thing I do is I ask the question, is it just the rings or the tentacles? And if they tell me it's just the rings, I tell them I'm not, I don't want it.
Not interested.
And they say that some of these places that just serve the rings, it's because that most people don't like the tentacles. Well, you know what? They need to learn what good eating is. And there's nothing like a piece of squid's tentacles, in my view.
I went on a cruise. This is more than 20 years ago. My sister was with me on this cruise, and we went to the midnight buffet. Now, she wanted a little something. I told her, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to have anything. I'll walk with you, but I'm not going to. And we were walking, and all of a sudden, there was this gigantic vat or tub of calamari. And so
Right.
I grabbed the big spoon and started putting it on a plate. And she said to me, she said, I thought you said you weren't hungry. And immediately I broke into my Yukon Cornelius voice from
Ah,
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
yes.
And I said to her, behold, the, bum-
The
the bumble's one weakness.
Yes.
Calamari.
Calamari. And remember, bumbles bounce.
Yeah. But this calamari didn't bounce. The meatballs maybe, but the calamari didn't.
Yeah. All right, so look, let us definitely now call it a night. So everybody have a great evening and a great day tomorrow. Please do be safe. Christinapedia, you can buy individual bottles of beer. You don't have to buy a 6-pack. I'm sure you can find stores that'll where they have them loose. You'll need 2 or 3, I think, for the crock pot in order to make it work, because you want to cover the whole the whole piece of corned beef with beer. So you're going to need at least 2, I would think. And yes, Dennis Cassia, I'm also an octopus fan.
Did you tell them we made ours already?
Excuse me? What?
Corned beef?
Yeah, we have. My wife is here, and
Oh, Mrs. Rayo.
and she wants to let you know that we've already made our corned beef.
All right,
Yes,
let me.
hi. Yes, we always
Hi.
corned beef.
How'd you make it?
I had a couple of pieces, matter of fact, and put it in a big pot, hot water, and then after the scum comes off, you put the seasonings in it.
Yeah, make sure you get that scum off.
Yeah, put the seasonings in it, and basically you have to cook it for at least 3 hours. And then, thank you. There I am.
Yes.
and then I have a small electric slicer, and I sliced it, put it in a nice huge dish, and I put the broth over it, and I made it then I put with the leftover broth, I put the cut up cabbage in there and the potatoes and the carrots and some celery, and that gets cooked for about another 35 minutes or so.
Nice.
And
I was
a separate dish.
I was telling Joe that for the last number of years when I've made corned beef, I make it in a crock pot and I make it in beer, either Sam Adams or Guinness, and it does come out really, really tender because I put it in the crock pot for 6 or 8 hours, so by the time you get to it, it just literally with a fork, you could just gently with the fork, it'll just fall apart right in front of you. It's very good. But I'm sure your corned beef after it's
I told them that you might come on tomorrow and tell everybody
the soda bread
recipe.
Okay.
Soda bread's tricky because you got to get it to. You got to be careful when you make it because it can be dry.
I have a very simple recipe that doesn't need any kneading, and it goes straight into a large 9 by 5 loaf pan.
Right.
And I have a couple little tricks so I can pass those on to folks.
Oh, please do. And of course you you eat it with curry butter.
No.
Oh, you got to go out and get some curry butter with it. Yeah, curry butters.
I've made it twice already, and so we're kind of sick of soda bread now. We had a dinner with my daughter and a couple of her friends back on Saturday, and there's still plenty left over. We'll have it tomorrow. I don't know if we'll get my son to join us or not because he I think wants to remain quarantined.
Oh, okay.
In other words, away from all of us because he's a teacher,
Sure. Oh,
and
sure.
and his fiance, she's a teacher, and matter of fact, she was still teaching today down in Harrison.
Harrison schools were open today.
Believe it or not.
Yep.
Really? Westchester schools
Oh,
hadn't
from the
closed.
epicenter of New Rochelle, right?
Pretty well close to it anyway.
Yeah, that superintendent there does shut down for much. So, but
Yeah,
now they're definitely closed.
well, I know the schools out here are closed, and the city schools are closed for 2 months apparently. So,
Right.
all right. So we'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
We'll be here.
Okay. Thank you, Renata, for joining, and you're welcomed anytime.
Okay.
Okay. And we
We gotta
will.
figure out something to talk about. The warmer weather is coming.
I totally agree. Actually, if I move you this way and I move myself in now, Joe is out of the frame. But you are, of course, as I said, you're always welcome to join in.
Okay.
You watch out, Joe. She'll take over.
Well, nothing. Whatever. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks everybody for being here. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.